muted him on. This is the yellow. We're gonna call meeting to order. General Government Committee. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
We'll move.
Any discussion? Not all in favor? Right. How about the minutes from March 11th?
Second that.
Discussion on the minutes? Favor? Aye. Great. Anyone has any conflicts of interest? Anything on the agenda, just let us know. Are there any public comments?
No public comments, Mr. Chair.
Are there any supervisors here not seated as committee members that have information needs to receive? Okay, does anyone have any announcements or committee information? How about a COVID-19 budget?
Just a couple important points. We finished the year about 3.92 million in sales tax. We were budgeted for 3.375. We have first quarter returns in for sales tax. Just something of note and to keep an eye on because I think it indicates some stagnation. Most definitely is that sales tax is flat with last year, no growth. And we have seen year-over-year growth. So last year was really high growth, first quarter before COVID hit. So that may be why, but we do see flat right now. So that's something we'll be mindful of. We have our allotment from the ARPA bill. We haven't gotten the notice to go into the portal to apply, but we get roughly 4.3 million once we apply. That's to be used for 4 broad categories. They have not given us a definition on those categories. We're waiting for treasury letters on those. Broadband, limited infrastructure, COVID-related costs, that type of thing. The only thing that's specific about the bill is that you cannot use it as an offset for taxes. Can't replace levy funds and you can't use it to offset a tax burden. But those treasury letters are going to be important because they'll give us more definition as we talk about how we can spend that money once treasury notices come down. Don't know when that's going to be. We get another half of that. We get the other half, not another half, the other half no sooner than 12 months after the first half is awarded and no later than 2024. So in total, it's about 8.9 million. The municipalities are getting much lesser amounts. It doesn't come directly to them from the feds. It passes through the state. But there's, I think the most significant is around 200,000, 240,000, somewhere in there. And I believe that's, Osceola Township and Village of Osceola. I broke it out the other day. I can't swear to this, Fran, but I think they're the highest that I saw in the county.
285 for the town.
285, yeah.
252.
Okay. But those come from the state, not the same process. Ours comes in, we'll put it in a fund, and then we can spend it down and we have to report out how we spend it. Yes, sir.
They got from some commentary that that's pretty wide open as to how you can spend it. I'm just wondering if we've had any discussion yet about.
Well, it's not wide open how you can spend it. What's wide open are the questions. That's why we're waiting for the treasury letters, because there's no guidance whatsoever on how it can be spent. There's 4 broad areas, but the WCA letter that we got last week is basically breaks it down, and the summation of the letter is the only thing we can tell you for sure is you can't use it for tax offsets, and we need to wait for the treasury letters to come out. So I think it would probably, Vince and I have discussed this, it would be kind of an exercise in futility to discuss before we get treasury letters, how we can spend it until we get treasury letters that say, okay, this category means you can spend it on this, 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 and this. This category means you can spend it on this, this, and this. This was the same thing with the COVID relief money that came out in the FFCRA. They awarded COVID relief money that you could apply for, but they passed the bill and it was roughly 90 to 120 days later, treasury letters came out and said, okay, this is what qualifies for it. That's the difficulty with this money is it's always, they pass the bill and then you get the direction later.
Who will determine how that actually happens?
I think that will be the board. I mean, we will take that money with the guidelines and present to you options. And then obviously open it up for the board to say, here's how we'd recommend.
I am hoping that by next time we meet, I'll have treasury letters and have been able to give Vince some better advice. And WCA, I get on the meetings every week, but there's really nothing new yet. We're just waiting.
I guess you probably said, and I didn't hear, but what's the grand total that you know about so far? That we
8.9 million divided in 2 payments. Yeah. And that's a rough figure, but it's right at 8.9 million in 2 payments. And then the villages and townships each get a special allotment. Nothing super significant for the villages and townships, but they each get an allotment.
Anybody else got questions, comments? Can we move ahead a little bit or?
Yeah, I just one follow-up question to that. With our 2021 budget, we're not budgeting, are we budgeting under 2020 by a significant?
We budgeted flat with 2020.
So this is assuming our revenues were on budget for 2020. That didn't include anything.
No, we didn't budget for any kind of stimulus.
So this, I don't hesitate to use the word, but somewhat of a windfall.
It is a sizable piece of money.
Anyway, I just want to put it in that perspective. That, you give us some opportunity, some things that.
We have people waiting to give an update. I don't think we need to make them wait. Why can't we move to that?
LHB team, are you ready to go?
If they're ready to go, we back to.
Yeah, we are.
I'm not logged in on here.
Anyone have a problem with us moving to that and then coming back to a couple other items?
LHB, it's going to take me just a minute to get it pulled up because I'm not logged in on this.
Okay, thank you.
Will it take you a bit or?
It'll take me like 30 seconds. That's it, Mo.
Well, while we're waiting, there's actually a resolution 1421. We could use a motion to bring that to the floor so we can discuss and take off the flag.
Make a motion to bring resolution 1421 to the floor.
Second.
Actually, the motion maybe should have been whether, I don't think we need a motion to bring it to the floor. What we need is a motion that we would recommend this. Vote on that. If they're ready, we're ready for update.
Great. I'm now I can see you're sharing your screen. So Aaron and I will reintroduce ourselves. I know we saw some of you when we interviewed, so we appreciate the opportunity to work with you on the Polk County mechanical upgrades and facility remodel. I'm Ann Porter. I will be the acting project manager working with LHB. Aaron, do you want to introduce yourself? Are you muted, Aaron? We can't hear you.
Darn it, there's the old mute button. My name's Aaron Kelly. I'm the government studio lead for LHB and I'm an architect. I'll be working closely with Ann and sort of overseeing the entire project.
Great. So Mo had asked us to present today in doing an overview of the project schedule. We had a meeting with some of the project team on March 30th to just do a kickoff and really do a high-level overview of the project scope. And we also reviewed this schedule with our mechanical and electrical engineers, and they do feel confident that this is a good strategy moving forward, realizing that we will continue to reevaluate the schedule and wanting to make sure that we're making decisions in a timely manner to ensure that we can get our bid drawings issued and allow construction to proceed. So if we focus first, there are a total of 6 phases.
Excuse me?
Yep,
Here, can we have a copy of the schedule?
we
I'll
can,
send it to get printed off, because I just got it.
Okay, it'd
Yeah.
be helpful for us to see this. We can't see the schedule on the screen very well.
okay, okay.
Before we start getting into the schedule, I'd like to see.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I don't know if Mo could zoom in more towards this, or whoever is driving, zooming it in towards the bar chart at the bottom of the screen is where we'll be reviewing it. Thank you. You want to let me know when to?
Yeah, just a minute. We're getting.
Okay, and I apologize that we didn't get this into your packet sooner.
Yeah.
We good?
Now, give me just a minute.
Okay. Is it raining there in Polk County today?
A little bit.
We've been having a couple days of rain in Superior, Wisconsin too.
All right, I think we're ready.
Wonderful. Thank you for your patience and getting that printed. I appreciate that. So now that everyone has this schedule in front of them, this is the outline that we had included in our proposal. And we have it broken up into a total of 6 phases. As you can see now, we're into April. We still feel that we can get through the first phase, which is the master plan review and development of the program. We feel that, if we can get that done in April and May, we'll stay on track for our schedule. Aaron and I are currently working on drafting our agreement, but we do suggest that we hold on finalizing that agreement until the decision of a construction manager. If that if a construction manager is being brought on board, that does determine what type of AIA contract we use. So we're drafting one without a construction manager. We'll be sending that through, I believe, Aaron, by the end of this week. And then we're recommending a letter of a request for authorization to proceed would be reviewed, giving us ability to proceed with the design while our contract is being finalized. Aaron, do you have any comments on the contract side?
Yeah, what we'll send you is based on a CM process, and if you decide not to go that route, we'll supplement with replacement clauses. It's generally the same. It's just there's reference to the CM who exists versus a contractor who we would need to select during the bidding process at the end of our design phase. So that's really the only difference, but the terms and conditions are identical. So we want to get you reviewing that now so that it's in place. And if it goes that route, then we're good to go. Basically, we'll be looking for just a memo that says the terms and conditions look okay and we can get initiated.
We got a question here.
My question is talk about you're developing the contract as if there's a construction manager, whether we go that way or not. When do we have that discussion? Why won't we just have that discussion now than wait and have you draft something we may not want to do?
Mm-hmm.
That's to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's to you, Aaron.
Yeah, well, as far as the contract goes, the terms and conditions, how we function is virtually the same. It's just a matter of one form versus another that references the CM. And if we end up not going that route, we would just supplement back the different contract, but the terms would basically be the same.
No, I understand that. My question is why are we inserting construction manager when we haven't talked about it? When do we talk about it?
We're willing to talk about it now if you'd like, but it is a decision that we should make pretty quickly.
Yeah, 'cause I would like to, let's just get this shook out now. My opinion is we don't go with the construction manager at this time. I would rather just see us set the thing out for bids. Because once you hire a construction manager, you're going forward. So to me, the board is still wanting to see the bids of this project. And to me, I think we should take it one step at a time and have their contract to bid the project. Because we don't have to take the bids. You know, and if we feel like, hey, now we see how the bids come in, we all get our handle on what this looks like when you bid it, then we can decide if we want to go construction manager. But I'd like to see the job bid before we decide to do a construction manager, personally. I don't know what anyone else feels, but I just think when
Clarification.
you hire a construction manager up front before the project is, we're going forward with the project. And I don't know that we've agreed to do the project yet. We've only agreed to do design work, right? So that's my 2 cents worth.
Couple of things I'd clarify. The construction manager, bringing them on now does not obligate you to build the project. You can stop the project at any point that you'd like to. So they are just a partner that comes in during the pre-construction design phase. And
I understand that. Yeah, I understand.
the other thing I would point out though is that they're required to still competitively bid the project. So they're just there to administrate that bidding process. They might self-perform or they might not. And you'll be getting competitive bids from the same people that you would get bids from if it was a design bid build project with a general contractor. So they don't necessarily even need to be the general contractor. There's 2 routes that you can go there. You could have them CM at risk, meaning that they are the general, or CM as agent, which means they are strictly an administrative body
Right.
to oversee construction. So just want to make sure everybody understands that you still will get competitive bidding.
Yeah, I just don't feel like, well, we can cancel the construction manager later. You know, we could still pull that out. I think it'd be better if we go forward with bidding it, letting them do their design work, do the engineering work. Let's see what kind of competitive bids we get from contractors. And maybe it's something we add in later after we see all those numbers, but I'm just not for a construction manager at this point to be in our contract.
I just have a question. If this is something that if we want to do later on, we could add in at that time. Whether we have a construction manager or don't have one, is that going to impact anything in the bidding process? Other than that, Mo will be putting the bids together or they'll be putting the bids together?
I'll let explain how.
LHB will be putting the bid together
Okay.
as part of theirs.
But it's,
Knowing their contract will be without with a CM at this point. And then once we have the bids and everything in there and decide to move forward with the construction of the project, we can have the discussion on the value of a CM at that point to be in the county's interest to look at each component as it goes together.
is it going to have any impact at all on how much people bid, whether there's a construction manager or not? Not going to make any difference?
We may, after we get the bids, we may want to have a construction manager.
I don't think it's a big deal if it's something that we decide we want to do later, we can still do it.
That's how,
I don't know that you'll get as much value out of a construction manager if you do it after bidding. The value we find is that they're able to provide constructability review, outreach to the bidders so that you get a good broad pool of people interested in the project. They're providing cost estimating. Right now, as you've probably seen in the news, there is a ton of volatility in material and labor resources, and it's going to get worse in the next 12 months. So their value really is in the pre-construction phases to bring a lot of reality to things and give us earlier estimates with a guaranteed max price. And yeah, if you bring them on after you've bid, you might as well just stick with a general contractor because that's the same role that they play.
I was also going to mention on the complexity of the phasing that we're going to be needing with the mechanical upgrades. I do see a value of them providing input in that phasing strategy. A lot of times LHB in a general contractor bid environment, we will put our best strategy in the drawings for bidding purposes. So you have apples to apples bidding, but you don't get their input until after the bids are received. So if they're involved throughout the design, they're providing that ongoing input on the phasing and the schedule strategy too.
Yes, yeah, question?
Going back, this is I guess it's assuming project 1 and project 2. And if someone could refresh my memory, how did we leave that procedure was, when and how were we to decide whether we were going ahead with both project one and project two, one or the other, or some modification?
We haven't decided. We're just having architectural and engineering work done. We're just doing plans. We're not doing any projects yet.
I think I said a month ago that we're getting the cart out ahead of
Yeah, no.
the horse, before we decide.
You gotta get a design, you gotta get a design, and you gotta get the mechanicals designed, and you gotta get a bid. Then you decide whether you wanna do the job or not. We're just hiring architectural firms right now to get us a document so we can get bids.
Are the bids going to be on both project one and project two, or what?
I think that has to be determined in each phase of the project. We do a cost estimate. So we were talking about the bonding timeline too, and I believe that was the beginning of April. So really the total project and the comfort of the board for what they're willing to spend, wanting to spend and bond for has to be determined in that preliminary design phase, kind of in the midpoint of that preliminary design. So we'll be validating the project and the comfort of moving forward at each phase before we get too far. We wouldn't be proceeding into a final design if the board wasn't comfortable with the total cost estimate and that scope.
I guess for me, I feel like I need this information to evaluate moving forward, to make more of an informed decision on whether we would, what the scope of the project is going to be, one or two or combined or whatever. I feel like this is information that I need in order to be able to.
Yeah, I don't know if we need a consensus or how we want to do this so we don't get bogged down on whether we hire a construction manager, but I would, if it needs a motion or not, but I would make a motion that we do not hire a construction manager at this point and don't proceed that way. It's architectural engineering. Let's work with our architect to get our bids. And if someday down the road we decide we want to get a construction manager, fine. If we, as the architect, Aaron said, if we get to the full bid and we still don't feel like we need one, well, he's saying, let's just go with the contractor. We might have a contractor that offers construction management. I mean, these guys aren't going to come in and say, oh, you didn't hire me as a construction manager, so I'm going to run the job different. You know, I just don't recommend at this point. Our board is ready to say we want to hire a construction manager.
This is that a decision that this committee makes or the county board makes?
This contract, at some day we're going to make it. Right now, all we made a decision was to hire this firm. So
We haven't even really done that yet.
we're getting ready
We're
to.
getting ready. Should this discussion be more appropriate when this resolution comes up? Or we feel this committee can just make that decision?
I think it could be our recommendation that, I mean,
Be sure to save them time.
yeah, I think let's just keep the ball rolling and let's not worry about going through hiring a construction manager right now. We've agreed to hire these guys. Let's get them working. And if someday down the road, we need to hire a construction manager because everyone says, yeah, you know, and I take their experience, they have experience. But I feel like our board has said loud and clear that we don't even know that we want to do the project. You know, you don't have consensus on our board now to go spend this money on two projects. You just heard it from Mr. Pritchard. He needs to understand more about this. And to me, I think before we jump on the pony and say, hey, we're hiring a construction manager, once you do that, we're not turning back. So I'm reluctant to go down a construction manager at this point. If we were going to do that, we should have done that before we hired an A&E. Like we did for the highway shop. We hired a construction manager. They went out and got the A&E. We said we didn't want to do it that way this time. We went out and got the A&E. I don't want the A&E now driving the bus telling us we need to go hire a construction manager. So
Just have them do their contract.
Do their stuff.
AIA underneath the
Yeah.
general, without the CM part of it.
Yeah.
And keep moving forward to
Keep
that
moving
point
forward.
where we have to make that decision.
Yep.
Yep.
You okay with that, Mo?
Fine.
All right, that's the direction you'll be taking us on then.
Alright, so we'll,
Okay, so we'll revise or not revise, we'll provide you with a contract that is based on a design, bid, build, and the hiring of a general contractor, once we receive successful bids, which we'll be administrating.
Sounds good.
What about, I mean, you made a motion.
I don't know that we need,
No.
and the chair is just saying it's consensus.
Just a consensus that, yeah, we're just gonna stay on this.
Stay on this track.
alright, that sounds good. And I think, Aaron, we had discussed in our meeting on the 30th that the ideal time to make that decision would be at phase 3. When we're getting into that final design where they could start really providing some constructability and phasing input in that last phase.
Yeah, I would say no later than the start of phase 3. So by the end of summer, we need to be pretty steadfast in that because like I said, once you've bid the project, the value of a construction manager is greatly diminished. They're basically a general contractor at that point.
You don't have bid though until December or January of 2022.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
So
You'll bring this
during
in
that
again.
final
Bring this
design
in.
phase that we really get the value of the CM.
So
Sure, so
from
you'll bring
September to December.
So you'll bring this back up at the point where we should definitely, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it again, but just you'll prompt us at the right time to say, hey, we need to now discuss this issue one more time.
Definitely.
Okay.
And as far as getting more knowledge, our next step is to meet with some of the leadership to better understand the master plan that has been done by Wold and get some of the history of the project. And then we can move into our recommendations and develop the program, develop a cost estimate and a master plan that we would present to you. So we'll be presenting more information and a lot more detail to get you more comfort with how you would make a decision and move forward too.
All right, anybody need any more discussion, any more questions? Or we're going to move on?
For this piece,
Thank you guys, and
do they have more?
you guys have more that you want to
No,
share?
I was just going to, look at the end. We focused on the first couple phases, but as someone had noted, we would be trying to work to get drawings out for bid. That prime time for bidding is typically that first part of the year, as people are gearing up for their projects. And we would like to see construction beginning, probably more likely in that February of 2022. And as you can see, this is a long phased construction project, so depending on if it's just project 1 or 2, we feel that, you'd start in February and most likely you would have completion in October of 2022 with a substantial closeout in that November timeframe. But that'll get refined as we define the scope to know more what you want to proceed with. That might be shortened if there's less
One more
scope.
question for you.
Yeah.
One more question. I've got the January 28th proposal, and it had a fee total broken down by stages or phases. Preliminary design, 30%, 106,000. Those numbers still valid? Do I understand you're putting together a proposed contract for LHB on the design with the county?
Mhm.
That would include these numbers that are in the January 28th proposal?
Correct.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Likewise.
We'll talk to you soon.
Right.
All right, well, we have a motion on the floor. Was it to move this county board with a recommendation? That was second. Is there any more discussion on it that we need at this point? That maybe shouldn't be at the whole county board. I mean, we don't get to make all the decisions. So it's something that should be better shared with the entire county board. Or if you just have a question here, Mike, you have a question
Yeah,
here?
I guess it's a comment, maybe a question, but, how does this resolution that's before us relate to approval of the final contract with LHB that would presumably break it down and, segments? When county board approving, we approve that contract? Or is that contract going to be something we get to?
Did you get a copy
read
of
over
the
and comment on?
resolution?
That's what this
Yeah.
resolution we're
Yeah.
voting on now?
Yeah, well, we're not voting on it now, Mike. We're only sending this to county board. That's all we're voting
For
on.
what purpose, for information, or?
Well, the county board will make that decision whether or not the appropriation of $400,000 is made. We only gather the information. Our motion is to send this to county board with a recommendation from this committee that this resolution be approved. That's all we're doing.
But that begs my question, because my question is there going to be a further review and vote by this committee or the county board once we see an actual proposed contract from LFP?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we are just in the first step.
What message are we sending here by voting on this resolution?
You're approving the dollar amount for the A&E services. The contract is negotiated for the best interest of the county by staff and corporate counsel.
Here's my point. If we decided to take a turn.
Not do the
halfway down
project.
it, well, not necessarily not do the project, but modify it one way or another. So presumably we'll have that flexibility in this contract. We haven't seen yet with LHD. But
I think, Mike,
I just don't want to say it, but I think what this resolution is carved in stone that we're going to.
We are spending.
I think, Mike,
That's the.
Mike, your question is really more about, we want these guys to furnish us all this information so we get bids.
All right,
So-
so no, let me just go back to that. The preliminary design is what we were talking about. Get bids, is that right?
You gotta do more than preliminary. These guys are gonna, as they presented, if you look at their schedule, they're gonna give us some design updates as we go through this schedule that they gave us.
What I'm saying, the 394 includes both projects, it includes.
Design work.
It includes construction administration.
Yeah.
88,000. It includes project completion, 28,000. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Are you saying, Mike, that if we only go through the first portion, that we should only have to pay 100,000? If we quit then, we'll
Yes.
go no further?
That's what I'm saying. I think I'm hearing you're saying, well, we're
Yeah.
$100,000.
I think we all agreed last month
We're going forward,
to do both designs.
going both designs. We're designing, the board approved,
My question earlier, I didn't think we did agree to do both.
Designs, yes.
the designs we did.
Building what?
Design wise.
Design
We
wise.
have asked.
What about construction administration?
Don't know that we're doing any construction. yet.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's in the 394,000 or 400,000, who's $88,000. Construction administration by way
Maybe they can tell us what construction.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
ask.
if you would, what you're doing is authorizing us to bill up to those amounts by phase. So when we get to the end of the design phase, if the scope is smaller and we're only doing phase one, our construction administration amounts will be billed at a slower rate. But all we're saying is here's the maximum amount that we're going to be billing. And our work progress will track along with the dollar amounts of our completion. We're not going to bill you for final design until we're done with final design and hand over a deliverable, and then we send our invoice. So you guys have control by proving our invoices or pushing back and saying you guys are not done yet, or we need to, hold back. It seems like you overbilled on this. That's your control of our.
And if they opt not to proceed into construction, let's say they get the bids and for some reason choose not to proceed, they're not obligated to pay us for CA services if we haven't performed those. So then our invoicing would stop at that point and we would not be billing for the full 394.
I'm hearing conflicting things here. Yes, we're gonna spend $400,000, and I'm hearing, no, maybe we're not gonna spend $400,000, and we could somehow or other.
We're appropriating up to $400,000 for the project. That's all we're sending to approval. We're appropriating that amount for LHP to do that. We're not necessarily going to utilize it all, but we are appropriating the money for that.
That doesn't say that.
It's appropriate.
The very end, it says recommending.
Recommends appropriate. Okay, I'm sorry about that, but
But that's just
yes,
what
we are going to
like,
spend.
if you're not comfortable with what we're doing, we're gonna call a vote here. We're not gonna spend the
Yeah,
day.
I call the question.
We're gonna call the question. If you're not comfortable, then you have every right to vote against it, but we gotta move on.
Well, you ought to appreciate that I was hearing conflicting statements here. Yes, we're gonna spend the $400,000.
We're appropriate. Our job. To appropriate the money, whether it's spent or not, it's not yet our decision.
Doesn't spell out how we're gonna make the decision. But I presume before.
All right, we're gonna call the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we're going back to 10, discussion of possible action regarding request by the town of Lincoln. Right away.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Lead us through that.
Sure will. Just a entry drawing on this at this stage. This was brought forward by the Honorable Chairman of Lincoln Township, Jay Luke. And what they're requesting is the,
Make a motion to deny. What they're requesting is,
Motion dies.
I was hoping I'd get a second. We could just kick it for a month.
down on County Road C there at 125th Street and 105th Avenue, there's a tangent there that's county owned right away. What the town of Lincoln is requesting is to transfer part of that right away triangle to the town to have a fire engine substation built there. It's a dead spot for coverage for Lincoln Township. What I would do if we get approval at this committee, then have the surveyor block out the right of way 60 feet from center line that we'll keep and maintain for County Road C, and then transfer just the triangle to the northeast there to the town of Lincoln. Town of Lincoln will pay for the transfer paper and anything involved with transferring that over. So they will move forward then and build in their substation for a fire truck for coverage in that area.
I make a motion to grant the request to transfer the right of way to the town of Lincoln.
Does this committee have the authority to do that, or we move, is this
You're
just moving it
recommending
to county
to-
board? Recommending
Right.
it, county board?
Make a motion to recommend in the county board. right away to the town of Lincoln is requested.
Let's wait for a second.
Still discussion then.
Sure. I don't understand why, I mean, do we do this, give land away to townships? You're giving it away.
Right, we're just transferring because it's non-tax. It's not on the tax roll now. Typically, these triangles are dedicated to the side to use for reconstruction of the roadway for bringing.
And the reason I ask is just like what's happening on County Road C or County Road G, where the guy thought he owned property in a road right away, and it seems like we were digging our heels in for that guy. But now all of a sudden, well, I know you do, obviously. But my point is why do we do it for a township? Don't they have another place to build their fire station? I mean, why are we doing this? More,
This was the location that, my understanding is that they had that would best fit without having the town to purchase property from private individual. And this right away is way outside.
sounds like the township doesn't want to go spend any money. Buy the land, right? I don't know. I'm just asking, do we normally do that? Give our land away to a township so they can build a building?
It's kind of say municipality work. And we've done this with right of ways from the state to the county.
For roads and stuff.
For roads and
I'm just
stuff,
talking,
and
because this is a
not
building.
triangle. Yeah, this is a building for a municipal fire station, but the triangle for, as far as right of way goes, is not very susceptible that we'd be using this at all.
So we typically don't give land away for someone to build a building to a township. Have we ever done it in the past? For a building? Because we're giving it away
I
for
don't have that knowledge.
we're giving it away for someone to build a building.
Right.
Not for a road, not for access, not for maintenance. We're giving it to a township so they can build a building.
Right.
That's why.
And township ever sell it?
Would the township sell it?
If they owned it, they could.
Once they own it, they can do it. Yeah, I mean, I view it as it's a public benefit. It's for a safety, firehouse substation.
I get all that.
In a dead area, and it's not for somebody, a private benefit. That's the difference I see between me and this, is that this is a public benefit. But I mean,
To that township,
The township,
not to the rest of the county.
yeah, my constituents in Milltown are giving up land to another township that we own, right? So just,
Okay, well, I think everybody, definitely has their,
I don't know what it's worth.
yeah, I mean, if we want to charge them for it, what's it worth?
Right, that's my.
and at this point, it wasn't asked, that wasn't
We
an
don't set
option
precedent.
at this point. Pay for it. I mean, at this point, they're asking just for the transfer.
Okay.
We have a motion to transfer.
We're just recommending this to the board.
Yeah, but we're just moving
Just
this on to the board,
It's
and
not our call, right?
Yeah.
not here, but
How many acres is it?
It's around 2.5 or 3 acres. Once I have the surveyor do up to 60 foot right away there, I'd have it.
That's what I'm worried about okay, I get it. So if Milltown Township, we found a spot where we want to build a park or we want to do something now and we can find land that you're not using. It sounds like we could come to you and ask for that. You probably let us have it.
Set precedents.
I'd bring it to the board. I'd bring it to the committee. The
Sure.
committee decide as a policy.
But it wouldn't be Bo couldn't give it.
No.
No, but-
Only the county board.
Only the county board can.
So the good appropriate place for more of this discussion would be at county board. So everyone understands that if we do this, we are setting a precedent.
That's all I'm saying.
We're going to do it. So it'll be a rogue. I mean, it'll be good to, Jay wanted to be here, would have been for this portion of the meeting. Couldn't.
Sure.
So I say we move it there. I mean, was your motion was with the recommendation. So if we don't get that, it's still gonna go to county board. and discuss. So let's call the question. I think everybody knows what's asked for here. We'll call the question. Those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Failed to go with the recommendation, but
I'll make a motion to send it with no recommendation. So it's coming out of here with a
isn't it going anyway, to county board for the discussion? I mean, I don't think we could stop it here, can we?
no, I just don't want to send it with a recommendation. I would vote to send it to the county board because it needs more discussion from the town chair.
Right.
I just didn't want
Make
to
your
send,
motion.
make a motion to send it to the county board.
Second that.
All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Right, that's where we get debated. Thanks, Mo.
Yep.
All right. Now we can own something else. Discussion and possible action regarding 21 outlining conditions for county ownership of the Clam Falls Dam.
I'll make a motion to send that to the county board. And it's not a recommendation to approve it. I think this should be held at our committee of the whole again. And I would just like to send it to the committee of the whole.
Second that.
Any discussion with sending it to the committee of the whole and having the discussion there? We can discuss it here as long as you want.
We sending it with or without it?
Without a recommendation, just sending it, because it should be discussed at the county board. It's too big of a deal.
Yeah, that's it. We can get into the big debate here. If
What's
it's
your
really-
point?
but
Gotta go there anyway.
It doesn't,
That's fine.
what do you got, Mike?
Again, I have a question as to the procedure. It uses a lot of words like satisfactory insurance, et cetera, et cetera. Realize it's going to the county board and so on, but does staff or anyone here have a comment on how it's envisioned that these 5 conditions preceding would be addressed and satisfied and presented?
So as regarding insurance and those requirements, we have established policies regarding insurance and requirements that are well established. And when I review contracts or look at situations, I apply those established limits and
Well,
requirements.
and that's what I'm coming back to, it is to what point, and I don't know if this is something the committee of the whole with the board, this committee or whatever, is going to know what those policies are as they would apply to ownership of a dam and
Right.
We will know.
All 5 of those would be there. For example, the resolution as it's written doesn't put any dollar amounts in it.
So I believe our approach, as Vince and I have discussed, we would come up, if we developed a package that we believed satisfied the county's requirements and our standards, then we would bring that package to the board for the board to review. Saying, we think this reserve fund meets this requirement. We think this insurance level meets this requirement. We think this ongoing maintenance fund meets this requirement. And then we would do just a package presentation saying, we've reviewed the proposal. This meets these standards. This is what we put forth to you guys, for you guys to give a yay or nay or alteration.
Just take one example. Insurance. I have no idea amount of coverages, all that. No idea what the premium would be. Just a number of questions.
Right.
And, that's something that we would take a long time discussion to all of those and.
We will come to
What
you
the rest-
with, here's what we know about insurance and here's what the estimated or what we anticipate the cost being. We're talking with insurance companies now to get a firm number. That number will show you the details of it. You may decide as a board, we like it or we don't.
Well, I hear you're saying that there's a policy. Our policy says that for a dam in a township that it has to be X dollars of coverage.
We require for liability coverage for across the board, we require $1 million and then a $3 million aggregate on a liability policy. For property, we have some property that's a replacement value. We have some property that's an agreed upon value. Things like that.
I don't want to belabor the committee here, but the whole big question is 1 million or 3 million even approaching adequacy for situation.
Well, and that's part of the package.
Yeah, and I can tell you that's what the previous owner had on it as well.
I think Supervisor Pritchard, all of the requisites listed here, some of them would be clear, you know, the 100% funding by the state. I mean, that would be an absolute number, but all of the rest would have to come back to the county board to determine whether the county board feels that those have been met. This is not intended to set forth an obligation of the county at some particular amount, whether it's insurance or how much the town is going to contribute or any of those factors. The only intent of this resolution was simply to signal to the state legislators, the county is still considering this, so please move forward with seeking an appropriation in their budget process.
And it's hard for 15 people in the committee of the whole to make decisions on things like that. It seemed to me that I feel it probably should be brought to this committee in considerable detail and have a discussion about, for example, township of Clam Falls, I assume can appropriate money for 1 year. They can't appropriate indefinitely into the future. So what happens 3 years out if they decide they're not going to provide any money for agent or there's a long list of these questions, and it's imagine the two of you probably know if you've been discussing it, have to be addressed to go into this. And I just like to think that we're approaching it in informed way with an opportunity to consider all the aspects of it. Not sure that the whole.
I think we will bring it both back to this committee as we get more information into the full board. The original decision was this is something that the full board should discuss in a committee of the whole to decide.
I have just a question. I'm not trying to direct staff or do anything like that, but I'm hoping at committee of the whole that we will have more detailed information about the cost of the insurance as well as how much money the electric company has, hopefully a definite number.
We don't have that this time, like this, for this resolution. This resolution, that is so far in the future to figure out that information. This resolution is something that just says, hey, the county is still considering taking ownership of the dam to the state legislators so that they advocate for funding. But once we learn those numbers, the insurance and the amount the town and how the mechanism by which the town is promising money, all of that, then we'll bring that back and decide whether or not you guys and the full board eventually are comfortable.
Correct, Malia. If the legislator right now they're working on their budget. So they are trying to determine, is the county even interested? If we could get you all the money, are you guys even interested in doing this? So right now, this is, because if the state comes back and says, we can't get the money, the deal's over. So this is for our legislators to go get money at the state for the project. Then, like Malia says, over the next year, this committee is going to get so much more information if we're going to keep going forward. But that's the intent of this resolution, is just to keep the ball rolling. Just like our first resolution was the administrator to keep working on it, which he has been. Now this resolution says, if the state will give us money, and this goes to Joe brought this up, why would we set a set amount for Northwestern Power, how much money they give? So kind of address this in the resolution for Joe to say, it's whatever the cost would be to demo the dam in the reclamation, not what Northwestern wants to give us. It's what would it cost? These things will take months and months and months to determine. But the first step is our senator wants to know, are we interested? If I can get you the money, are you guys going to keep going forward? And we're saying, we're going to have conditions if we do. So yeah, keep working on it. You know, that's all this resolution is. This isn't going forward saying we're going to own a dam. And how much money is it going to cost and what's the exact binder on the insurance policy?
And hear the argument coming back, well, we have voted that these conditions met. I guess it doesn't spell out satisfactory to whom and.
Well, it's to the board.
Well, I think that.
We're going to vote on it at some day, whether it's satisfactory.
Should probably say that all conditions preceding are satisfactory.
It's not creating a contract obligating the county to do anything. That's why it was written in such a way that the condition preceding would be satisfaction. And who needs to be satisfied? The board.
Let's make it clear that that's the case.
That's what the document says, Mike. It is clear that's what it says. Maybe not to you, but it is clear to some of us. We've talked about this enough. Chair, please move on.
You wanna, all right, yeah, we'll have plenty more discussion.
So we send it to the county board with or without a recommendation?
That was what the motion was.
We're just sending it. Yeah.
Send it
We
to them.
discussed
Yeah,
it.
that's all it was. Send it to the board.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's going, but not on a unanimous.
I think that should be clear in the notes that it's 4-1 and Mr. Supervisor Pritchard voted against it. I'd like that to be in the minutes. I think it's important because he lobbied against it at the county board. He's lobbying against it here. So if he doesn't want it, I think it needs to be clear to the public. He is voting against pursuing, trying to save it.
All right, are we in some pending litigation that would require us to go into a closed session?
It depends upon where you go. There's the Christensen litigation, there's a Board of Adjustment litigation. None of those require, I think, a closed session as far as
Giving us an
first
update,
giving you the update on where we are.
maybe give us the update where we are, and if anyone wants more, that would require a closed session. Let us
So we just got yesterday, the Board of Adjustment versus Frigo and Tom Peckham. This is the litigation regarding the Deer Lake Winery right there on Highway 8. The Board of Adjustment granted a conditional use permit that allowed for the winery operation and small events, special events, and then also a chiropractor's office on the other side of Highway 8. And that was, I believe, about 3 years ago. And property owners that are from Chicago that own property on Deer Lake challenged the conditional use permit in the circuit court. It got assigned to Judge Mogan from Burnett County. We briefed it for about a year and a half. And ultimately, Judge Mogan found in the county's favor and upheld the conditional use permits. And then the same property owners, at least one of them, appealed it to the Court of Appeals. And we briefed it, and it's been sitting with the Court of Appeals for about 6 months. So we got the decision yesterday, and it did two things. It upheld the reasoning of the Board of Adjustment and said they did everything correctly. They operated under the correct theory of law. They came to an appropriate decision. However, because they did not send notice to the Lake Association, I believe it was, I can't remember the name of the Lake Association, but one of them that's affiliated with Deer Lake, because they didn't receive notice, they remanded it back to the Board of Adjustment to hold a new hearing. The only additional requirement is that we send notice to that particular Lake Association. Board of Adjustment was meeting today upstairs. I popped up there in between meetings, let them know we're going to have a meeting to decide. We've got a couple of options. Take that to the Supreme Court. Probably easier just to have another meeting, another hearing with that notice given. But it's just one of those odd things where it's 3 years down the road. They've already been operating the winery and the the chiropractor office. So it's more procedural than anything else.
Emily, isn't it true that the attorney in this case is also the property owner, right?
Not exactly.
Not
So it
anymore.
is an attorney that is the property owner, but they're not licensed in the state of Wisconsin. They're only licensed in Illinois.
I see.
And so they hired Nick Vivian,
Sure.
an attorney from St. Croix County. My belief is the attorney from Illinois drafted the pleadings and Nick was just the signatory, but that's just my
Right.
feeling. The Christensen litigation, I'm as far as the criminal cases, and the civil liability. On the flip side, the Supreme Court the Supreme Court of the United States denied the county's request to appeal the en banc decision of the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals that upheld the jury award against the county in one case. And so that means that litigation is completed. There are two other cases with relatively similar facts that were kind of being held in abeyance pending the Court of Appeal, or excuse me, the Supreme Court decision. And now I believe that one was originally set for a jury trial this spring, and now it's set out till this fall. In the meantime, there are, of course, negotiations. And that's all being provided by our insurance defense. So it's not our office. It's other attorneys assigned by our insurance.
That's the Christensen case. Are those two pending, there are two pending cases that haven't been tried yet? They're not combined, they're separate cases.
They are procedurally combined. So the other cases that were denied the writ of cert to the Supreme Court, those travel together. This is the two separate, but they're being tried by the same attorney. They're being held together. All of the jury trial is set to have them as a joint trial.
They go under our insurance policy on what year?
How many years ago?
Oh, I just looked at,
7?
I think it was 16, 15. I think 15 is where the loss run is, of 15.
What's our limit of liability under that policy?
I don't know what are you talking about what our deductible is or what their,
Our limit's 10 million.
Liability,
Is that
how much
accurate?
insurance cover?
No, it's 10 million per occurrence.
How much have we paid out under the first one yet?
I don't believe we paid out yet.
Yeah, they have paid all lost claims except for
That was how
600,000.
much?
Yeah, so they've paid out the judgment minus, they have not paid out attorney's fees. They're still negotiating that when I looked at the loss run a couple days ago.
What was the amount of that judgment?
3.2, I think, 3.2 million, and attorney's fees are roughly 700,000, but there's some argument on that. So there's still a reserve sitting on our policy for about 700,000.
Ultimately, what does it cost the county in this? What did it cost the county? What's our deductible? Anything?
A deductible of 45,000. It's going to cost us in the future as far as rates go, and I won't know.
Today, what does it cost us?
Nothing today because we already paid our deductible on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just future that's where it hits us.
What, you said that was 1 million per occurrence?
No, our liability is 10 million per occurrence.
10 million.
Yeah.
So is that 3 million plus the 700,000, whatever attorney fees, 10 million.
Yep.
For one case, we've got 2 more pending.
But it's per occurrence, so per client would be an occurrence per victim is how they look at it because they open a loss run for each victim.
If you wanted to get into a discussion about the likelihood of a similar verdict or a similar payout, I think at that point we would need to go into closed session. But I do have, an opinion on that if you wanted to hear it, but I would want to go into closed
I
session.
think Mike could come and talk to you if you wanted to hear it.
I don't believe our
I don't
committee,
need to hear it.
I don't need to hear it.
Anybody else need to hear it?
Well,
All right.
can I ask one more question?
No,
Per occurrence is $10 million.
Yes, on our liability. Yes.
They treat each of these other 2
So on,
An occurrence, so each one has 10,000.
on our loss run, yeah, they have each one opened as a separate loss run for a separate occurrence. So is how our insurance has them. So they've identified them as separate occurrences.
So do we have any other cases with liability?
I don't believe there's any out there with significant financial liability.
All right, can you run us through our work plan?
Yeah.
Do an update of 2021 work plan. Looks like we have something
All right.
this month too.
So May tentatively, we have set review of IT policies. I will tell you, this is one that I may move depending on how busy the May agenda gets. We do have the FOSS Consulting presentation in May for recycling. And then we're going to do a short presentation on the Kronos HR system we put in. But again, that's when I may move depending on how busy your agenda is. June is a comprehensive report on resource expenditure on methamphetamine for this committee. July is annual reports, annual audit results. The audit begins in a couple weeks. GAM started this week. And review external agency funding requests. August is the fee schedule. And September becomes heavy budget season. September through November is heavy budget season. There is a report on the governor's budget and impact on government programs. That's due in July. Based on the WCA calls, it's gonna be curious to see how, if this budget comes out in July or if they kind of do a continuing resolution. So we'll see how that shakes out. I think the state budget's kind of in a little bit.
And how about, we had some possible 2021 work plan topics. Are any of them that we're wanna move on and talk about? Of the government center security, customer service, procedures and policy regarding review of MOUs, funding of outside agencies. Actually, don't we have something going on that? Through executive,
So executive reviews like the performance, and then general government will review their financial at their additional funding requests.
and that's on our work plan already?
Yeah, so that falls into your,
That could be crossed out.
yeah, that falls into your July review external agency funding.
And meth costs resulting from meth, we're gonna get some presentations, that's going to county board, there's gonna be some monthly updates.
Yeah, you guys get one in June, so we can come
Probably
up.
cross that.
That's already on there.
When you talk about that, the funding and outside agencies or how it does, typically, I would like to how we fund it after what's happened this year. And, does it all stay in tourism? Does some go to EDC? I know EDC is working on tourism issues too. So I'd like to actually have that a specific topic.
That's review external agency funding request in July.
Would that fall into that okay? And it can just be in that box?
Yeah, that's when you guys decide how much to award them on their request.
I just like to make sure we have all the information when we start talking about how we fund EDC and how we fund tourism. And what is our expectations of that funding?
Yep.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything they want to add to that? On the MOUs, funding of outside agencies? I guess we have it on our work plans. How about the recycling center improvements versus changes to the new plan for recycling? So it was added in January 14th of 20. That on our work plan that we're gonna actually do something on that? I don't find it on our work plan. It's on possible general government. Someone wants to make it a topic, they need to put it on our work plan
So
and start working on it.
I have a question, and how procedurally how this works. So we're getting the report, we're scheduled to get the report next month.
Yeah, because we didn't get it this month. So it is actually kind of in the works, but does it not need to be on our work plan?
We've got the report on the work plan. I guess the question is, how do you want to, what are the next stages? So we've got through the report, but what are those next
So-
stages?
After we get the report, at what point in the process would we talk about the recommendations of that report in regards to any action or any recommendations to the county board about what's in that report? Does that need
I
to
would
be?
recommend that you ask for an agenda item to be put on where discussion of possible action, resolution to go to full county board, because it's been here for years. And then we kind of decided we weren't gonna do anything and it ended. So if you wanted to revive it, ask for it to be put on the agenda. I don't know, then what, then have
Well-
Malia to help draft a resolution, and then we would discuss it, move it to county board, and if it came back to life.
I'm thinking if we get the report in May and review it in May, then in June, based upon what that report says or doesn't say, we don't know what's in the report yet. But based upon what the report says that we receive in May, that in June, we would consider a resolution.
Probably in May would be appropriate for you to ask for it to be on the agenda for resolution.
For June.
All right, how about we keep, I mean, we're discussing it in all the committees, but the concept for potential. We don't necessarily have to have that.
No, I think that probably just appears as a recurring agenda item.
All right. Anybody else got anything for the work plan? How about subject matters for the next meeting? Do we have enough subject matters to have a meeting? Does anyone have any more subject matters? That would only leave us one thing left to do.
Second.
All in favor?
I- Nobody.
Stand adjourned at 11:08.